Although the original title of my talk today is The Faith That Conquers All, if I could still change it, I would call it If Only. If only I could share with you for just a second the feeling I had next to the stage just now as I read that email. If only I could see the moment when you are standing here and I could be sitting there. And I sincerely wish from the bottom of my heart that you experience these moments. Thank you so much for being here. I love how positive you all are. I love that everyone smiles in the hallway when we meet. And I am a huge fan of positive people. And right now, only positive people are here. I claim that today in Hungary, this room has the highest average number of positive people per square meter. Thank you for being here, and let's use this brilliant opportunity to build connections among ourselves. Because so many of you complain that your environment is negative. When you come here, everything is fine, but when you go home, people drag you down. That's why I'm asking everyone now to stand up, look around the room, and introduce yourself to at least 3 people you're meeting for the first time. I know it's hard to stop, but still, I'm asking you, please be kind and take your seats. Before I begin my presentation, allow me to introduce a young man to you who is here with us today. And before my talk, I asked him if I could speak about him. And he said that although there are some points in his life he's not too proud of, he still agreed. This young man was at a very low point when he was 20 years old. Specifically, this meant that he slept in stairwells. He brushed his teeth and shaved in pubs and rotated his only pair of underwear every 2 days in order to feel a bit more hygienic. And there were times when he was caught stealing in a store, so he was so hungry that it came to this. There were times when he would fall asleep at night shaking and crying because he couldn't see the future. He couldn't see hope. He couldn't see how to go on. And this state, this deep self-hatred, this deep depression led him one day to go up to the roof of a tall building with the intention of ending this nightmare. And they jump off. And when he was standing there, just one step away from the solution, something interesting happened. An inner voice spoke up and said, "Get up from here. Show what you are capable of with your own life." And he didn't jump. He decided to put his life in order. Many years have passed. And now this young man is standing here before you. I have thought a lot over and over again about how I could possibly summarize these past roughly 15 years since this happened. I will talk much more about this during my presentation. There is one point I have to highlight. There is a person in my life to whom, without exaggeration, I can say I owe one of the most. Yesterday, when I had the opportunity, I'm sorry, I didn't expect this, and I'm having trouble finding the words, which is not typical of me. Anyone who has heard my presentations knows this is not like me. But right now, this is the situation, and I apologize for it. Yesterday, when I had the chance to greet him in person, I told him, as I was taking him to the hotel, that I had always dreamed of this moment. I dreamed of being able to tell him in person one day, thank you. Thank you very much, Brian. From the place where I started, I can proudly say that today I am a happy husband and a happy father. I have a beautiful family who are actually here with us today. And I believe that one of the main goals of my life is to set an example for my two beautiful children. To be able to set an example that I myself did not see, an example that can help them live a full and meaningful life. I am extremely grateful for the patience I have received from them in recent times, both for my children and for my wife. You can see in the pictures as well that they are both angels on earth. I could tell countless wonderful stories about both of them, and I will during my presentation. But now I would like to specifically talk about my older son, Vilmos Karoli. Let me share two short anecdotes with you that always reassure me that we are on the right path and that things are happening just as they should. One of these is the morning ritual we have. Every day starts with me sitting in the living room, doing what I learned from Brian, writing down my goals, visualizing, imagining my future, and doing everything I can to get there. You can probably imagine that today didn't just happen like suddenly my phone rang and someone said, "This is Brian Tracy, would you like to invite me to Hungary?" I worked very hard for this, and I've been doing it nonstop for 10 years. The reason I'm talking about this now, sorry for going off on a tangent. My little son Vilmos comes downstairs after his nap. I'm sitting in the living room and he walks up to me, stretches and says, "Dad, guess what? Last night I bought New York." And I think that most of us, of course, with all due respect to the exceptions, or rather, I'll just speak for myself, in a situation like this, when a child makes a statement like that, probably wouldn't say, "That's it, son, you did great," but instead would say, "Wake up already. Your hand is in the potty. Do you really think that's possible?" That's what I got. Whenever I dreamed, I always got told that nothing would ever come of it anyway. And to this, I responded to my son by saying, "That's it. Do it like this. This is the best direction." Another little snippet from him, because maybe you know, that self-esteem is one of my favorite topics. And when I say it, I tell them very often how much I love them. And in one of these moments, this story is always connected to little Vilmos. When I told him, my sweet little boy, I love you so very much, he replied, "I understand you, Dad." Now, just imagine this in the case of an adult. That would be anything but what a normal person would respond. Obviously, people would say that someone like that is so arrogant, they don't even greet themselves. But fundamentally, it's about the fact that a child still knows how valuable they are. And the title of my talk today, "The Faith That Conquers All," refers to encouraging you to believe in yourself. Be a child again. Believe in yourself and finally start thinking like a child again. Believe that you can achieve anything in life. Every milestone I am able to reach regarding my own goals. The greatest happiness for me is that I can set an example for others with it. I come from where I come from, and I am going where I am going. And I use every stop along the way to be able to say that anyone can do anything in life. If I could do it, so can you. Let's return to my original subtitle. I believe that when we talk about faith, there are two very important things you need to believe in. The first is yourself. The second is what you represent. And if either of these is missing, then the products in 9 of the 2 will be 0. You won't be successful. You can struggle, scrape by, and try, but things won't turn out the way you want. However, if you believe in yourself and serve a noble cause, then it's only a matter of time before you're destined for success. If you believe in yourself, but you stand behind a cause that deep down in your heart you don't truly believe is right, then circumstances will work against you. You know exactly what I'm talking about. You know exactly what I mean. If you serve a noble cause but don't believe in yourself, you'll end up like I did back then when I didn't believe in myself. And because of my constant inferiority complexes, I was never able to achieve anything. Until I was 35, I felt like I was a reject. I had no hobbies, nothing I truly liked. I had already achieved a lot, at least from an outsider's perspective, but I was unhappy because I didn't feel that my life was heading in the direction I wanted or unfolding the way I wished. My first piece of advice is to boost your self-esteem. Increase your self-esteem. Who among you here believes in themselves? Who here has goals? Who here can say both of these are true for them? Then please stand up if this applies to you. My request is that only those remain standing who believe in themselves, and their goals so much that they would be willing to make a bet that in 10 years we will meet again in this very room. And if you haven't achieved your goal, then as you walk through that door, you collapse and die. Let only those remain standing who still believe in themselves and still believe in their goals. You deserve a round of applause. Please take your seats. You can be sure that the next 10 years will be much tougher than you can imagine right now. If you really have dreams, goals, and you believe in them, when people start something, they say, I'll give it a try, I'll attempt it. This word should disappear from your vocabulary. Either you do it or you don't. Either you see it through or you don't. But one thing is certain. You can be sure that it won't be you testing things out, but life will be testing you to see if you are suitable for this, if you are truly capable of achieving this noble goal. And after life has tested you and it feels that you were willing to pay the price, because we know that success doesn't have a secret, it has a price. And if you are willing to pay that price, then, as my mentor Brian just said, nature is neutral. You will receive your reward. Nature doesn't say that one of us deserves it and the other doesn't. We often use the word impossible, when in reality, it might just be a little uncomfortable to do it. When I write down my goals in the mornings, there was a time when my partner came out of the room and said, it's so nice for you, Dad, that you love writing your goals so much. And I asked, Yuppie, who said I love it? I just do it because Brian Tracy said so. 10 years ago, Brian Tracy told me to write down my goals. I said, I'll give it a try. And now here I am standing in front of you. And I'm really talking about this so that you believe me. Look in the mirror, look into your own eyes, and ask yourself if you have truly done everything for your goals in the past 10 years. For example, I haven't missed a single day of reading in the past 10 years. Many times I was dead tired and there were often difficult circumstances. But not a single day has been skipped in 10 years. I love working with children. I adore them, that radiance, that life you see in a child's eyes. And I have the happiness of having received 2 wonderful gifts with my beloved. And every day I get to experience this and see that radiance in their eyes. And who among those sitting in the room has ever been a child? I think everyone else has too. I'd give everyone the benefit of the doubt. I certainly was. That's how I started as well. And when we were children, we saw the world in a completely different way. We believed we could change the world. We believed that we could achieve anything in life. Then we were affected by some external influence. And because of that, as adults, we no longer dare to think big. We give up easily now. Now we think that it's not possible for us. So what happened along the way? What is this process? The childlike one. I'll be an astronaut and a soldier too. Everything is possible. Then they walk down the street like a zombie, the living dead. There are no dreams, no sparkle. I call this process the shaving machine. What does this mean? The example is about a Russian inventor who announces that he has discovered the shaving machine and that this will revolutionize the entire industry. They call a press conference. There are many people in the audience all waiting with tense anticipation to see what the product looks like. The professor steps out and says, "Ladies and gentlemen, here is this marvelous machine. You only have to do one thing, drop in a ruble and just stand underneath it. A mask comes down with blades inside and it shaves you. That's all there is to it." Huge celebration. Everyone is happy. And they say, "Yes, this is exactly what we needed." Then the first skeptics ask, Professor, excuse me, but people's faces aren't all the same. To which the professor replies, "At first, every person is born an individual, but most die as copies." Every person is a talent. Within every person lies their own music, their own calling, which they feel inside for a while. And then it quiets down. Your task, your absolute duty in life is to find this. You cannot go through this life without finding this and fulfilling your dream. As Buddha said, a human lifetime is just a flash in the sky of the universe. It will be over soon. And for this, one of the most important things is to dare to be a child again. Dare to go back and start valuing yourself. And if you're curious about where you stand in terms of self-esteem, all you have to do is observe what you say to yourself when you look in the mirror. After my presentation, when you go out for the break, you wash your hands. I trust him. After using the bathroom, you look into your own eyes in the mirror. Please pay attention to what you will say at that moment. In order to be able to look into someone else's eyes, you actually have to be able to look into your own first. Also notice if you can't even look into your own eyes. That happens. For me, it was like that for many years. I suffered from such self-hatred during that period I mentioned that I avoided places with mirrors because I couldn't stand to see myself. I would have liked nothing more than to spit at myself. And today, I really love myself. Often when I give a talk to a smaller audience, people are closer to me. I see that at this thought, many people raise their eyebrows thinking, wow, how arrogant. But I believe that egoism and self-love are completely different things. Self-love is your absolute duty. Do you want to live your whole life without loving who you are? You have no choice. You have to live your life with yourself. Pay attention to that. As children, when we saw ourselves in the mirror, we looked at ourselves as if we were a miracle. But really, what do you think this child is thinking when they look at themselves in the mirror? Things like, oh my God, what does my nose look like? God, I look like a corpse. I can't even go out in public like this. Then a few years go by and this relationship changes. We start to relate to ourselves differently, right? If there is one thing I could tell you today, well, with great love during my presentation, one piece of advice, and perhaps besides all the many things about how to behave with your children, it is not right, this mitina, to be tough with the boy, but rather to show him affection because he needs it in order to become a man. Besides all this, I could list so many other things I have learned from Brian. If I could mention just one thing for which I am most grateful to him, it would be this sentence. It would be this sentence. I love myself. I love myself. 10 years ago, when I first heard the name Brian Tracy and started reading his book, Maximum Achievement, I only got as far as page 20, because there it said, Napon, that if you want to fix the mistakes of your childhood foundation, you should stand in front of the mirror and tell yourself, I love myself. That was the point when I closed the book and put it aside for more than a year. I said, no, I don't want any part of this. I mean, this is a bit much. As a man, I'm supposed to stand in front of the mirror and say, I love myself. I just can't imagine doing that. But then, when I heard that a person can only give as much love to others as they feel for themselves, I thought, since I want to be a father and I want to love my family, I'll stand in front of the mirror. That's interesting motivation that at first I didn't even do it for myself. I stood there and said, I'll give it a try. So I stood in front of the mirror and said, I love myself. And you know what happened? I started sobbing. I stood there again and said, I love myself. And I started to grimace. I started yelling. I wanted to smash the mirror. The feelings I had suppressed since childhood started to well up inside me. I remember I wasn't even 10 years old when I first wanted to commit suicide. These thoughts have been coming up lately. So I once heard that it's never too late to create a happy childhood for ourselves. And I decided to bury everything. But it's not that simple. However, that's not the topic of my current talk. So this, I love myself, it gave me my life back. For a long time, I kept telling myself that I love myself. And there was a point when I started to feel a kind of warmth in my chest. And I felt as if I really did love myself, even if just a little. And then more and more, increasingly so. And when I truly started to love the person I am, that's when professional successes began to come my way. My financial situation started to improve. My stormy relationship with my wife began to get better. My relationships with other people started to smooth out, and everyone became kinder to me. And seeing the impact that this simple little sentence had on my life, I decided that I would talk to everyone about this. Then they asked me, what should I do? Am I unhappy? This. That's it. If I say just one sentence, that's it. And I believe in this so much that I decided I would pass it on to my children as well. And one morning, on a Sunday morning, when my family was sitting there on the couch, my partner and my 2 children, I said, come what may, this is my life. I stood there in the living room facing the big mirror métier and started repeating, I love myself, I love myself, I love myself, I love myself. My 2 little boys looked at me like, what happened to this person? He was fine until now. And there I was repeating, I love myself, I love myself, I love myself. Then they came closer and closer to me, looked at me, and after a while asked, Dad, why are we playing this game? And there we stood, the 3 of us with my 2 little boys. They were 2.5 and 3.5 years old at the time, And the 3 of us were repeating into the mirror, I love myself. I could say that I didn't get emotional after such an introduction, but that wouldn't be true, because that's exactly what happened. I got emotional. The whole thing touched me, realizing how different a life we can live compared to what I might have experienced back then. And I asked them if they would allow me to capture this moment. At that time, I thought I would just capture it for myself with a little camera. And my older son, Vilmoska, whom I've been talking about, said there was no way. However, Tituska, my younger son, said it was fine. And now I have brought you this short video with love. I love myself. 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 People usually like this little video. As long as it's about how sweet it is, oh, what a cute little child, how adorable it is when he says, I love myself. But what happens when I ask you to do this with real conviction? You really don't have a choice, because it's time for the dress rehearsal. My request is that everyone stand up. And as loud as the walls of the Congress Center can handle, shout it right into my face. On the count of 3, I want you to shout, I love myself. Okay? 1, 2, 3. Give yourselves a huge round of applause. Thank you. Please take your seats. I see the ladies don't really need any more blush, and neither do the gentlemen. And what should you do if you find yourself in a situation like I was when I stood in front of the mirror and said, I don't believe it. I said, I love myself there, and I felt like I didn't believe it. What can you do when you have the desire? Okay, I'll stand there and do it. But I keep saying it, and I just don't believe it. The gap is too big between what I feel about myself right now and what I long for. You can bridge this emotional gap very simply with the following sentence. What would it feel like if I loved myself? What would it feel like if I truly loved the person that I am? What would it feel like if for once I finally woke up happy in my own skin and felt that the greatest gift in life is that I am me? Not my car, not my career, not my money, and not anything else, but that you open your eyes and say, my God, how wonderful it is that I am me. What would that feel like? Not long ago, I did an interview and then in ECA, and they asked me what happiness and success mean to me. These are very profound concepts. I said that in my Dhammatarsa of my life, the greatest happiness and success is that even though there are more than 7 billion people living on earth, I wouldn't trade places with anyone. I love the person I have become today. And I love the life of that person, the life that is my own. And I wish for each of you to live your life this way because I believe that's the only way it's truly worth it. Next, thank you very much. I've put together a few points like this. The first one, of course, was to work on your self-esteem. Please, and keep telling yourself, I love myself. While driving or standing in line, Brian told me to say it at least 100 times. I said it 500 times. Whatever Brian said, I always multiplied it by 2 or 3 because I told myself I want this. I came to earth to live, not just to exist. I'm not going to go through life on reserve. Either it ends right there where I stood, or it ends with a big, bold end. Keep your promises. It's very important. How much do you believe yourself? Do you always keep the promises you make? Would you make a blood pact on your word? On the promises you make to yourself? What about the promises you make to others? Would you be willing, when you say something lightly, to recall the thought that if you don't fulfill it now, you'll collapse and die? Would you be willing to go that far? Let me ask differently. This Christmas, a stock were issued in your name, would you buy it? Would you be willing to invest all your money in the stock issued in your name? Do you believe in yourself that much? Do you believe in your word that much? Do you trust yourself enough that if you promise anything, you know it will happen? Because the most important promises are always the ones you make to yourself. And think about this. When today you promise yourself that tomorrow morning you'll get up at 5 and read, then when the alarm goes off, you just turn it off with a simple motion. You get up at 6:30, go to the bathroom and look yourself in the eye. What are you going to say? Wow, now that's a real person. Congratulations. Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. You start lying to yourself, you won't believe yourself. You won't believe your own words. It's very interesting. Many times I've caught myself not keeping my promises. Neither the ones I make to myself, nor the ones I make to others. And once I heard that, successful people promise very, very little, but they always keep their word. They make promises on very few occasions. Unsuccessful people say yes to everything, but then they don't follow through because they lie to themselves and to others as well. They can't look themselves in the mirror, but they often don't connect these two things. It brings much smaller, but immediate and intense pain. When someone asks you for something and you have to say, sorry, not this time. It hurts in the moment, but in the long run, it pays off. Because the other option is so much worse. You say, of course I'll do it, and then comes the slow-acting poison, when you have to look yourself in the eye and you can't believe your own words. Please pay attention to what you promise. And related to this, let me give you a piece of advice that I found works in my own life. Promise yourself small things. Start rebuilding your faith in yourself. Don't promise that you'll read for an hour tomorrow morning. Promise that if you're not in the habit. Who here read this morning? Why didn't the rest of you? Only about 10% of the room has their hand up. I read this morning. By the way, the excuses you'd gladly tell me in private right now that you came from far away, you didn't have time. You got caught up in things. I don't know what yours is. It's important for you to know that excuses are nothing more than painkillers, just to make it easier to bear the fact that you're lying to yourself, to make it easier to cope with not keeping the promises you made to yourself. Get rid of this painkiller habit. Promise less, but keep that promise. Don't promise that you'll read for an hour tomorrow. Promise that you'll read just a single page, one paragraph. And believe me, if you go stand in front of the mirror after that, you'll be able to say, I did it. I did what I promised. And you start teaching yourself to believe in yourself again. Step by step. Don't promise yourself that you'll run a marathon next month if you haven't seen a pair of sneakers in 20 years. Because you won't go out running tomorrow morning from here. I'm telling you this right now from the stage. Promise yourself that instead of taking the elevator, you'll walk up to the first floor and keep that promise. And once you start believing in yourself again, by the way, others will start believing in you too. If you're a leader, my question to you is, would you follow yourself? Would you want a leader like yourself? Would you believe your leader? Would you know that what they say is something you could make a blood pact on? I lied a lot, unfortunately. I deceived a lot of people, including, and most of all, myself. And I said that this has to stop. I would rather endure the pain of saying no to a dear friend if they asked me for something than not keep my word afterwards. For me, the most important and greatest recognition in my entire life is if someone uses the word authentic about me. When I was listening to Brian's lecture last night, and he talked about what people say about you behind your back. What do they say about you? What do you want? How do you position yourself? How do you build yourself? What do they say about you? What is the word you want to hear? For me, that word is authentic. That live with integrity. That I always say what I think. And I always do what I say. These are 2 steps, but I'd like you to write them down and examine whether you live this way and decide that from today on, you will. Let me say it again. Always say what you think. And always do what you say. Give yourself little rewards. Who here has seen a puppy being taught to fetch a stick when you throw it for them? It's a game, right? It's a game. What happens if you bring it back? They give it to them. Yes, my boy. They get a treat, right? And what happens as a result? It reinforces in them that this is good. This is good. I encourage you, if you have goals, and as I said, start by promising yourself smaller things at first, then afterwards. Give yourself a little reward. Until I was 35, I couldn't do a single push-up. I'm not proud of it, it's just a fact. Then my friend Zolti and I started to change that. I'm not saying I know the most in the room. But what I do know is that every time I go to the gym, I reward myself afterwards. I sit in the sauna and let myself feel that, yes, I deserve this. And this is a very important point. Of course, there are bigger rewards in my life too when I don't just sit in the sauna, but I say, because I deserve it. I suggest that for every goal you achieve, assign yourself a reward that you will actually give yourself. This is very important. The other thing about rewards is that the whole thing is worthless if you promise yourself something. And then, well, now the kid needs new sneakers. I know what I'm talking about. 2010. On December 29th, 2010, I held my first training session. There were 12 people there. Most of the people sitting in the room hadn't paid because I just asked them to come, to please be kind and listen, just to have an audience. I had to pay for the room rental myself. Now it's going to be 4 years, and believe me, these 4 years have not been a walk in the park. About a year later, when I finally dared to start living my dream, the one I'm living now, and even though at first I had to practically rope people in, it meant that I wasn't making any money. I had no income. At the time when you saw the I Love Myself video, my kids were still so little, I was carrying them in my arms. We were heading home to our house back then with my partner. I opened the door in the middle of winter, and the heating was turned off. There I stood as a man. There I stood as a father, wondering, so what now? Do I really want to follow my dreams at the expense of my family? That's what people are like. And I said that I came to this earth to live, and the most I can give my children is to show them exactly that. My partner said we should buy diapers because we ran out. I told her to ask them to use the bathroom less because we can't afford it. I know what I'm talking about. Believe me, I'm not standing here giving advice, because I don't know what price has to be paid, but exactly because I do know. And that's why I post a picture like this, because I know exactly that. In order to experience the feeling I had at that moment, I paid a very high price. And this was one of my rewards last year, this summer. Choose carefully who you surround yourself with. It has an incredibly big impact on you. Just think about it. When you talk about your dreams and goals, how does your environment react? Do they say, I know you're capable of anything, you can achieve anything in life? Is that what they say? Or do they say, wake up already? Do you really think you can do this? Not long ago, a lady came up to me after one of my trainings and said, Peter, give me some advice. I want to lose weight. I've already started dieting 8 times and it's just not working. It's not working. My first question to her was, who she lives with, and she said she has a husband. Okay. So I asked, what does your husband usually say when you share your intention with him that you've decided you want to lose weight? The first thought, the lady said, is that he tries to talk her out of it. He says, don't you see that this just doesn't work for you? How many times have you already tried? Just give it up already. Let's just have a rakotsi turos instead. Well, who else would I have heard it from if not Brian Tracy, that you are the average of the 5 people closest to you? If you're brave enough, then Maupi, then tonight when you get home, write down the names of the 5 people you spend the most time with from the moment you wake up until you go to bed, and take a look at their lives in 3 main categories: relationships, finances, and health. Give them a score from 1 to 5 and see. When you underline and calculate the average, how satisfied you are. If your environment is negative, then for heaven's sake, go out and meet new people. Why do you think I ask you to stand up and introduce yourselves? Because when there's a break, everyone just rushes outside, fiddling with their phones, and here you are. Really, there are amazing, positive people here. Start building your relationships instead of complaining that the people around you are negative. Well, change that. You might have already noticed that, with one exception, the entire population of the earth, over 7 billion people, consists of other people. Don't tell me that your environment is negative. You have a choice. You lose control over your life the moment you say you don't. But you do have a choice. You always have a choice. You choose who you give your time to. And what Brian said in the previous lecture, for me, that was the $1 million sentence. Me, EDD. Successful people value their time highly. while unsuccessful people squander it on anything. When someone honors me by reaching out and wants to connect with me, they often start by saying, I know how busy you are. And in fact, most of the time, that's true. For example, right now, I am very busy. Really? During this period, while we were organizing this conference? But generally, I give myself a lot of free time. And that doesn't mean I'm busy. It just means I protect my time. Brian said that the highest paying job is thinking. I create the circumstances for this. And instead of rushing around, I regularly sit down and plan my future. It's very rewarding. So keep networking today and from now on always. And my next piece of advice is to invite a successful person to lunch every month. No matter how difficult your situation is right now. I know that several of you wanted to pay for today's entry fee in installments. I know that some of you had to decide whether to buy this ticket or pay your phone bill. I know. You're here between the lines. I know I'm telling you, even now, invite a successful person to lunch it, and you pay for it. Don't say that they have money anyway. Have dignity and be the one who pays. And believe me, successful people are incredibly open and helpful. That's why they're successful. When I first talked with Brian, I couldn't get over it for days. It's incredible how kind and helpful he is. And of course, I put it all together. Of course, that's why he's where he is, among other reasons. Obviously, there are more reasons, but this is one of them too. So I encourage you to invite a successful person to lunch every month. If you don't have money, if you're facing challenges and want to draw strength from others, then go to the most upscale place in your neighborhood. A restaurant, a golf club, a hotel, anything. Take 2,000 forints with you. Sit down at the bar and order yourself a still water, a non-carbonated water. That will be just enough to cover it. And sit there until they kick you out. And just watch them. That's what I did. I felt so uncomfortable when I went into a 5-star hotel. I would have liked to just run out, but I sat down and watched these people because I felt like I didn't belong there yet. I sat there, watched them, and realized that they are incredibly helpful, kind, and friendly, and that what they put into our heads about the rich, being evil, stealing, cheating, and lying, is just a painkiller so that you don't do anything for your own life to become rich yourself. And if you want to change this, then go among such people and see for yourself, are they really evil? The other day during one of my lectures, a person shouted out, well, a man, sorry, obviously a person that this isn't true. This isn't true. I know plenty of people who are rich and dishonest. Period. And I asked him, how many people like that do you know? At least 3. I said, yeah, great. And by the way, how many people do you know in total? Well, several hundred. So these 3, what proportion are they of all the people you actually know? And yet you let this thought deprive you of the chance to become wealthy? Is this what you're holding on to? Are you using this against yourself? Please, finally go somewhere where there are more people like that and take a look at them. When I first attended a training where I wanted to feel this, I actually took out money at loan shark interest rates and told myself that no matter what, I would breathe the same air as them. I had to find out whether they were really evil or if I had just been made to believe that. Imagine. I even prepared Bryant in advance, telling him that I would mention him a lot in my presentation. Imagine, for me, Brian Tracy is actually one of the 5 people I spend the most time with in my life. No, you probably don't quite get what I mean. Even if he's with his family at the time. I wake up with Brian Tracy. And my wife knows all about this. I'm constantly reading and listening to Brian Tracy's thoughts. And he's the one showing me the way. Success leaves clues behind. Step into those footprints. Do what, for me, Brian is showing the way all along. I set as my life goal what he is still doing to this day. So, and for that, the instructions are right there for everything. I have to read you this thought from Woody Allen. Don't argue with idiots because they'll drag you down to their level and then beat you with experience. If you leave here and start talking to people about how you were at a training, a lecture, a conference, and it was good and there were positive thoughts and you love yourself, they'll say to you, what did you have for breakfast? Don't you get it that life, is crap? Can't you see what's going on around us? And if you get into this argument, they'll pick you apart. In 5 minutes, you'll walk away from there thinking, oh my God, why was I even born? Don't get involved. I won't allow anyone to trample through my mind with dirty feet. Gandhi said this back in the day. I won't allow anyone to trample through my mind with dirty feet. Whenever someone is negative in my environment, I cut ties with them for life. Wow. And many people say, wow, that's too harsh. The choice is ours. That's the decision I made. That's what I choose. Better to be alone than in bad company. It's better to be alone. And listen to Brian Tracy. Really, Brian gave me my life in every area. Keep your thoughts clean. Do you know this diagram? So I see that there are quite a few ladies sitting in the audience, so I changed it. I encourage you, first of all, to catch yourself. If you say negative things, and just as importantly, to immediately remove yourself from any situation where you might be exposed to negative impulses. Don't allow anyone to leave their footprint on your carefully kept, clean carpet. All right? And my next piece of advice is never complain. Never complain. Either do something about it, Shainon, or accept the consequences. You always have a choice. Someone comes up to me and says that their partner has been using them as a doormat for 20 years. And I ask them, do you want to change this? Well, yes. So I say, then what's holding you back? The pain. Obviously, we don't want the discomfort, right? On one of Brian's audio recordings, I asked him, these sentences really hit me hard. If you want to know why you're not making progress in this area, just ask yourself one question and pay attention to the answer. Why am I not rich yet? Write this question down on a piece of paper and answer it for yourself for a few minutes. Think about it. What will you write? That it's not possible in Hungary, that it's not possible in this profession, that the market is saturated and that the timing isn't right or anything else. Look at your own excuses and you'll end up complaining because that's your painkiller. Saying, if only I lived in another country. You have to root this out. Never complain. Never complain. Who here watches TV? Throw out your TV. Throw out your TV. Seriously, I know everyone only watches National Geographic and Spectrum. I know. I haven't dared to watch the news in 10 years. I haven't dared to watch the news in 10 years. I might actually get depressed from it. So a horror movie is nothing compared to what's on the news. He exploded, he died, that's all. The whole thing sends you the message that you'd better be afraid because things are going to get worse than ever. I don't want to get into the reasons behind this right now. Choose your words carefully. Just very briefly, please pay attention to what you say because God has only one seal. And whatever you say, that's the seal. He will stamp on it. And on this seal, it says, approved. If you say that it's impossible to achieve success in Hungary, boom, there's the seal. If you say that, yes, maybe no one has achieved it so far, but I will show it. I will achieve it. Believe me, it's only a matter of time. The seal is already on its way. Have a role model. I ask you to guess just one person. Who do you think mine is? Definitely Brian Tracy. And who did I hear this from, that I should have a role model? Obviously from him. I managed to choose quickly. I picked him right away. And Brian said that whenever you find yourself in a certain situation, always ask yourself what your role model would do in that situation. I often ask myself, what would Brian Tracy do in this situation? They turned down an invitation, for example. Or actually, I won't even give examples, whatever situation comes up. And I ask myself, what would Brian Tracy do in this situation? And seeing his wisdom, seeing how he handles these things, it helps me to grow up to all of this. In a given situation, I always check whether Brian Tracy would do it this way. And this often makes me realize that there is still room for improvement. One very striking example of this is when we organize events, and there are still occasions, though I say still because I will obviously change this, when I not only have the wonderful opportunity to stand here in front of you and speak, but I am also the one carrying in the audio materials and books to the counter. And Nori went. Where are you, Nori? Are you here, Nori? Nori is working again, my colleague. And when I'm loading things into the trunk, sweating buckets, my suit already soaked and dirty, packing up the audio materials after the presentation, I ask myself, does Brian Tracy do it like this? And I have to realize that I need to do something very differently. Of course, time, and we haven't even mentioned that he used to do this kind of thing back in the day, but that's beside the point now. The point is, he's setting an example. And once there was a very interesting situation, that made him realize, okay, now we really need to rewire everything. You know, it's that classic question, does Brian Tracy do it this way? I had 2 presentations scheduled for one day. In the morning, I gave a training session to a bank on the shore of Lake Balaton. And later that same day, I had another presentation in Serbia. And after I finished the presentation at Lake Balaton, I thought that since I was already down south, I would easily make it to Serbia in time. Yes, but when I finished the morning session, I realized that I had left my passport in Budapest. Wow, that's a challenge, to say the least. I called my wife and asked her if my passport was really there, and she reassured me, saying, "Oh, don't worry, you can cross the border with your ID card too." I told her that my ID card had expired, so it was back to Budapest for me. Highway at 170, speeding. I picked up my passport. My friend Roby was joking around. I turned towards Serbia. And I was speeding down the highway when such a gnawing hunger came over me that I said I couldn't go any further. I had to stop, so I pulled over. I got off the highway. You know, I don't want to advertise, but into Lidl. I rushed in, burst through the door, grabbed 2 rolls and a vacuum-packed ham, then back to the car because, of course, I had to get to the presentation on time. I started speeding down the highway again. Tieste grabbed the roll, tore it open, stuffed the vacuum-packed ham inside, and then I come and started wolfing down the ham sandwich. I'm racing at 170, shoving the sandwich in my mouth. The ham, the crumbs, everything falling onto my beautiful suit. I'm just going at it with this little, I wonder, does Brian Tracy do it like this? And that's when I realized I need to organize these presentations a bit better. Be now who you want to be in 5 years. Start observing yourself in more ways than one. You see, change is continuous. It doesn't happen from one moment to the next. I encourage you to start paying attention to yourself. Imagine it as if you were the main character in a movie, and the cameraman is following you from the outside. So they're with you everywhere, filming your whole life, and you are also the cameraman. Start looking at yourself this way. Start observing yourself in your appearance. Many people say that clothes don't matter, but that's not important. It's what's inside that really counts. All I can say is that I have a different opinion. My opinion is very different. And they've made you believe this too, that clothes don't make the man. Just once put on an outfit you truly desire, and you'll feel exactly what I'm talking about. Look at whether you would trust yourself, both in the literal and figurative sense. If you were to meet yourself, would you want to do business with yourself? Would you enjoy your own company? Do you say, all right, I'll just throw something on? In the way you greet others. When you walk into a place, do people notice? Or do you just slip into a corner and say, sorry for existing? I'm here too, but it doesn't matter. You said, well, have a nice day. Everywhere I go in shops, people turn their heads and wonder, what did this person have for breakfast? So when I walk in and say, have a nice day, people notice. That's how I see myself. In every single conversation, just in the past day, it's incredible how much I've learned about this from Brian as well. The attention I get from him, that patience, that incredible wonder. And I have to be careful too, not to be the one acting like a know-it-all. I talked more in one day than he did. And I barely speak English. Because he asks questions, he's curious. It's unbelievable. And I'm prone to just go on and say my piece. I'm prone to this. You have to pay attention to this too. And as I've already told you, eating is extremely important. I probably shouldn't call myself credible here, especially after what I told you about my trip to Serbia and how I handled meals on the way. Make sure you treat it properly when you bring food into your body, that sanctuary. This is the area where I have the most room to improve. So my friend Zsolti really helps me with this. The gentleman in the picture is the richest man in Hungary. After this, we could say that appearance doesn't matter. But I have no doubt about it. And when it comes to clothing, please take this sentence with you that you're about to see. It's not the quantity, but the quality that matters. Have an outfit, no matter the situation, that when you put it on, you feel like you are the person you want to be in 5 years. Imagine this. I'm talking about this in the best possible place, right? Allow me to talk to you about the opportunities that lie within 10 years. Now, as I finished my new book, I wrote a lot about this. What is it? What does 10 years mean? What can 10 years give us? Just imagine it was 10 years ago that I first heard the name Brian Tracy. I had no idea who he was. 10 years ago, when I heard the name Napoleon Hill, I thought he was a descendant of Napoleon Bonaparte. Embarrassing. I know, but I admit it anyway. That was 10 years ago. And 10 years ago, when Brian first said, do this and this and this, I said, let's see. Now, after 10 years, here I am standing before you, and let anyone put their hand on their heart if in the past 10 years they haven't missed a single day. You might say it's easy for him. And for him, then here come the excuses again, the painkillers about why you shouldn't do it tomorrow morning. 10 years is a very long time. Don't skip a single day. The idea and the execution are often very far apart from each other. They are very far apart from each other. When I gave my first presentation, just imagine, as I said, there were 12 people. I was standing there in the corner, head down, wiping my glasses. That was 4 years ago. And you could say there's still room for improvement, I know. And now here I am. And you know this, there are tremendous opportunities in 10 years. And this summer I attended Jack Canfield's training in Arizona, where he talked about what he had achieved in the past 10 years. And believe me, this training cost me twice as much as the price of my car at the time. There was such a big tear in my car seat when I was in Arizona. It was already embarrassing to drive it. I went to give a presentation at a financial company, and people came out to see what kind of car I had arrived in. And even then, I didn't buy a new one. Instead, I went to this training. In January, I'll be able to go to Brian's for an exclusive small group training with about 12 people, where the ticket cost, just to give you an idea, about as much as a year's salary for someone living here. And believe me, I do all this because of the principle I'm about to suggest to you. Every now year, spend as much on your personal development as you do on maintaining your car. If you do this over the next 10 years, including insurance, fuel, tire changes, servicing, and everything like that, invest the same amount in your personal development. And well, here's a not at all subtle advertisement, which is basically brainwashing you all day long, rolling university, rolling university, rolling university. Interestingly, I also learned this from Brian, turn your car into a university on wheels. That's why I created the Motivational Audio Materials online store, where, among others, I distribute materials from Brian, myself, and other amazing speakers. And I encourage you to take advantage of this opportunity as well, and perhaps you know that. I wrote a book titled, Get Out of Your Own Way. If you want to improve your self-esteem and set your relationship with yourself right, I wholeheartedly recommend this book to you. And I also have a couple of audio materials which you saw during the break, but I don't even want to talk about those. If you allow me to sit with you in your car every day, and when your annoying neighbor starts going on about how terrible life is, just put on this CD, and believe me, you'll see the world in a completely different way. And if you feel like getting in touch with me, you can access a free video series on the main page of Sikerterkep.eu. If you go there, this is what you'll see, just like here. And with the weekly positive quotes, I send out a short, motivating video every week. I say all this in the spirit of self-development because I believe in what I'm talking about, and I want to be there with you. My second to last thought is dare to live. Dare to live. Most people tiptoe all the way to the grave, just so that nothing too serious happens to us along the way. Somehow, we just try to get through to the end. I say go full throttle. I was 18 years old when I saw a movie. It was called Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man. Who here has seen this movie? Two main characters are talking, and one of them says, listen, it's about time you settled down and finally lived a normal life. And the other one replied, okay, I'd rather burn in the fire than soak in piss. And this really stuck with me for my whole life, that I either truly live or not at all. And that's what I encourage you to do as well. Because I know this is a theatrical part of my talk as we approach the end. But we're all going to die soon. Have you thought about that? Are you afraid of death? You have to die a little in order to truly live, especially if you're afraid of death. 9 out of 10 people are terrified of death. I used to be terrified of death. And I had to realize that I have no control over when I will die. Man proposes and neither that. God disposes. But I do have control over saying, I love you today, my dear. I have control over standing here and speaking today. And you also have control over what you do with your day, what you do with your tomorrow, with each and every day. Before you one day look back and underline whether this was truly a life or not. I truly understood why I want to stand here before you when I realized this. When I read Tolstoy's novella, The Death of Ivan Ilyich. If you haven't read it, I highly, highly recommend it. The title makes it clear that it's not a comedy. At least not from the protagonist's point of view. At the end of the novella, Ivan Ilyich is lying on his deathbed. He holds the hand of his wife, whom he deeply hates, and asks himself, just before he breathes his last, maybe I didn't live my life the way I should have. And today I am standing here begging you to finally start living. Start living life to the fullest, because these few decades are much shorter than you would ever think. Dare to stand out from the crowd. Dare to be yourself. The original painting is always worth more than the copy. Even if those around you want to force you into line, dare to move forward at full throttle and think big. Think big. What do you have to lose? There are no goals that are too big, only deadlines that are too short. Dare to dream. My new book, which I picked up, or rather we picked up from the printer the day before yesterday, is exactly about this. There is life before death. Don't focus on what will happen when you die, but on what you can do while you're alive, while you can enjoy this gift. Dare to make mistakes. If you dare to live, you will make mistakes. You can be sure of that. You won't succeed the first time. Before you do something well, it won't work at first. And my last thought, but perhaps the most important of all, love people. Everyone longs for attention and love. You do too. First and foremost, love yourself and love others as well. Not because they've accomplished something like we were told in our childhood, but simply because they exist. Just like you also long to be loved. Maybe that's why you make a scene. Maybe that's why you show off. Maybe you're standing on a stage and speaking, but deep down you just want to be loved. Everyone. And childhood, when a child loves, they merge with you. When a child says, I love you, Dad, they really mean it, and it never crosses your mind to wonder, but why are they saying this? When an adult says, I love you, then nah. There must be something going on in the background, right? That's when the proportions change. And this sentence has become one of the most important in my life. And obviously, this also comes from Brian. Only life is what quickly slips away, but what we have done with love in it remains forever. And if you become the refreshing exception in Hungary today, the one who is willing to dare to start loving people, believe me, you will. Finally begin to truly live, to feel, to express these things. When I first texted adult men with a message like, I love you, my friend, one of them replied, are you drunk? And that's understandable since this isn't the norm. I'm not asking you now to walk through the streets of Budapest shouting, I love you all. But what I do ask is that you all stand up now and looking into the eyes of at least 3 people, tell them you are a wonderful person. The advanced ones even hugged each other. Adam, can I borrow this for a moment? I want to invite my children up to the stage, and this is one of them. Thank you very much. Please pay attention to me for just a little bit longer.
A wonderful person.
Wonderful person. Thank you. You are wonderful too. Thank you. Kids, will you come up for a bit? Among my final thoughts, please allow me to say this so that we can further strengthen their already considerable self-esteem. And I agreed with my 2 wonderful sons that they would come up here on stage with me. And we have a ritual that we say together every other night after reading a story before we turn off the light. These are affirmations. I believe in these affirmations. And we agreed that they would come up here to me and say them without me. Usually we do it together in the evening, but now they'll do it without me. Just the 2 of them, sharing the thoughts we fall asleep with. All right? Boys, please come up to the microphone.
We can truly accomplish anything in life. Never give up on our dreams. Always do what we really love. And remember, Mommy and Daddy cherish and love us very much. Life is the only thing that passes by quickly. What we do with love in it will last forever.
Let's give them a big round of applause. Look, this applause is for you. Go to Mommy now, okay? Let's get settled now. I am endlessly grateful that you honored me with your presence today and are sharing these moments with me. There are so many people I could thank, and I will. Now, please allow me to hand over the stage to Brian for his next presentation after the break. On my part, thank you so much for listening, and I wish for you to love yourselves, love others, and dare to live. Thank you very much. Turn yourself onto the other.
Now, we are